All right. Now we are recording. What's going on, Paul?
Nothing much, man. How are you?
I'm good. So glad to have you here. So I know you don't need an introduction. A lot of people already knows you. So I would probably, I know a lot of people know you as Big Paul, but I probably will let you introduce yourself, not just about the bodybuilding, but just in general, your background a little bit. That'd be great if you could.
Yeah, I'm a bodybuilding hobbyist, I guess I would say, and that has turned into my career at this point. I spent the majority of my life as an entrepreneur. I worked in finance. I worked in technology for a good chunk of my life. About 20 years of my life spent in um, information security, network engineering. I was when I've always loved bodybuilding back to when I was a teenager. I think it started just like it does with everybody else. I saw Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone in movies when I was a kid, and I'm like, I want to look like those guys. And I remember going to Walden Books when that place was still around. When I was in, I think, middle school, and they had a bodybuilding section there, and I found Arnold's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding, and I read that fucking thing from cover to cover like 4 times. Um, a lot of the information in there was bullshit, and I don't know how much of it he actually wrote, but the part of it that actually really stuck with me, man, was the not the training, not the diet, not any of that stuff. There was an entire section on mindset. And
Right.
that was really the first time in my life. I grew up in a very poor area. Not many people, not many examples of success in my life, to be honest with you. I mean, I grew up with, no disrespect to the people I grew up with, but we were economically depressed and nobody
Right.
really did much of anything with themselves. But it was the first time I'd ever read something about a guy. He talked about growing up in Austria as a kid and not having a lot, and it was post World War II, and things were pretty economically depressed in Germany and Austria at that time, and basically him talking about mindset and his basically he just willed himself to success, and that he had this control over his mind, quieting the voice in your mind, the internal locus of control of being able to tell that voice to shut up and force
Right.
yourself to do things. And I remember that just resonated with me because I had never considered, and this is bizarre to even think about now, that you can have complete control over your body, how your body looks. You can have complete control over success by the work that you put into it. I
Mhm.
just kind of always assumed that things were just destined and we just got through life. And like if somebody was better than me, that was just how it was. That was the first time that it really clicked with me. Like, oh, I have some control over this shit.
Right.
And bodybuilding to me is the ultimate metaphor for that because it doesn't lie. The work that you do, the work that you put in. Now, all of us have different genetic potential. Like
Right.
person A can work just as hard as person B and not get the same results. But I think everybody can improve.
Yep.
And to me, that's really the journey of bodybuilding, and why I love bodybuilding so much is because it teaches you structure. It teaches you how to push yourself. It teaches you mindset. It teaches you willpower, all these things that are important for success in all areas of your life. It doesn't necessarily, and that's why, like, I don't get too hung up on placings at shows. And if I get clients that want to do shows, and I hear other coaches shit on people that don't have potential, like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And to me, like, that's secondary. It's really about the personal journey. It's really about self-improvement. It's really about overcoming obstacles and learning how to press through difficulties and work your way around things. It's just a strategic way of thinking. And you're in business, you're in IT, and these things apply to all things in life.
Right.
And I think these
Absolutely.
are important lessons to share with people. For me, that's really what the core of it is, and that's why I kind of have gone down this path of coaching, and why I enjoy helping people. I love seeing people have success and get the most out. Now, that's not to say that, there are people that work hard at a poor game plan,
Yep.
and don't get results. So you need a good game plan as
Right.
well. You'll see it, in professional sports as a manifestation of that. Coaching and strategy and all of these things have a huge impact on level of success. I mean, you can have the best athletes in the world with a poor plan and they don't have success, but it's just all of these things that come together. And I think that's kind of where my journey evolved. I mean, I had success in business. I had some failures in business. I got my dick kicked in a couple times in business, lost everything, and then got back up and did it again and learned lessons. And that's really what this whole journey is about for me. And I like sharing that with other people and helping other people be successful. I'm not saying I'm the most successful person, but I think I've
Right.
overcome quite a bit. And I've had some failures and successes in life, and hopefully I can impart that on other people.
Yeah. No, this is great. Where did you grow up?
I grew up I grew up in Appalachia. I grew up in the mountains. My parents live like right up against West Virginia and rural Virginia.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like the closest gas station was 20 miles from our house. I mean, we were right up
Wow.
against the national forest. I mean, there was just nothing out there. We called it the redneck ghetto growing up. I mean, nobody had a fucking job. The meth labs and people, rednecks and just, and look, it's still my home. I love it. It's where I grew up. My heart will always be there, but it's not the place where success is bred, because there's just so much stacked against you. And I think that's true with any depressed socioeconomic situation. It doesn't matter where you grow up. I mean, if you don't have opportunities for education, if you don't have opportunities for seeing diverse environments, different people of different cultures and um, economic backgrounds and different levels of education. I mean, you get very isolated and you get caught in this trap where you can't get out. And I saw it with quite a few of my friends. And I knew early on, like, that wasn't the life for me. I needed to get the fuck out of there. I just needed to figure out how to do it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. This is good to know. But I want to get into, so what was your real first step into, like, entrepreneurship? Like, was it intentional and accidental? Like, how did you, like, even getting into, like, starting your own business, not just the coaching, but even within the IT side of it, right? Like, when did you figure out, like, all right, I just need to own my own company, or
Well, I don't take orders from other people very well. I'm very stubborn. I joke. I said the only boss that I have ever really liked is me.
yeah,
Um, but no, I mean, it was kind of accidental. I started working as a personal trainer. I worked fast food and odd jobs. My dad did construction, and I did that off and on through high school and early parts of college. But I really kind of when I was in college, I got a job at a gym doing personal training and nutrition stuff and selling gym memberships. And it was really like you kind of had this shitty base pay, but you had to really make it happen on yourself. And I never really had considered working for myself growing up. And it just sort of happened. And that planted the seed for me, like, because I had to hustle to get clients for you sign up members and then you try to convince the members to hire you for personal training and nutrition, and then you got to work hard and provide them with a good service. And it sort of set the foundation for entrepreneurship, that at least that mentality. And I really enjoyed initially when I went to college. I went to college ironically on a music scholarship, and I was doing this while studying music, and I realized, like, God damn, I don't want to be a musician. I like building businesses. I like making money. I like doing this stuff. I like being around the gym. And it just that's kind of where things started to click. And then while I was at the gym in college, I met a group of friends that also had that same mentality. It was the first time in my life, really, because the group of people I grew up with didn't have that sort of mindset. It was the first time and it's interesting, at the gym, you do run into a lot of other people with success mindset. I think the fact that if somebody can consistently be in the gym 6 days a week, they are usually highly motivated people. Now, it's not to say there aren't some degenerates at the gym.
Right.
There certainly are, but I think it takes a certain mindset to consistently be at the gym, and those people, for the most part, are generally more successful. And I met my first business partner working at the gym, and then he and I. A funny story. We left, and I got into the mortgage and finance business with him. He got a job and brought me along with him. He's like, "Hey, let's go do this." And then our lady that we worked with overheard us talking about maybe one day opening up our own business, doing this work. And I had never considered, it was just kind of something like a pipe dream we talked about. And I came in on a Monday morning, and there was a box on my desk with all my shit in it, with a note saying I was fired. And so was he. And I'm like, well, shit, let's just go open this business up. And he's like, are you serious? I had no kids. I had no obligations at that time. And so I said, fuck it, let's go do it. I had no idea what I was doing. Zero clue. You just figured it out as you go. And I think that's that is definitely a lesson, like especially bodybuilding business. If you wait for the perfect plan, if you wait for the perfect opportunity, you're going to be waiting forever. This goes back to bodybuilding being a metaphor for life. I see guys all the time like, oh, I need one more year before I'm ready to get on stage and compete. I'm like, dude, the way you get better at competing is to fucking compete. You got to get out there and do it.
Yeah.
And that's how I got better at business. I went out, I sucked at it. I worked hard. I'm very stubborn. I don't give up at shit. I think that's probably one of my superpowers is I'm incredibly stubborn. I will work through I'll work myself to death. I won't give up. And, I'll work through all sorts of hardship, and I just kept grinding and grinding and grinding. I don't think I made a penny. I don't think I turned a profit. Actually drew a paycheck for 2 years after we opened up our first business. And then, then you start making a little money, and you start making a little more money, then you hire people, and then you got to learn how to manage people. And then you hit a point where you get to a certain size, and like you have to learn how to manage a bigger organization, and it's just the skill set you're forced to develop as you go, and there's nobody to fall back on, right? I mean, it's just you. Everything comes back to you, so it teaches this self-reliance. And that's kind of how it all started for me. And I've always worked, I have worked for people, but in a entrepreneurial setting. I have worked on my own. I've had my own businesses. I've done, but my preference is to just do my own thing most of the time. I've had business partners. I've had good ones. I've had bad ones. Anybody who's been in business has had those experiences.
No, absolutely. So I know you have built and sold, even watched some other companies fail. So what is the biggest, the lesson you took away from failure? I mean, I could speak for myself, or every time I failed, I try to figure out a better way of doing it the next time, right? I mean, that's just kind of common approach, but did you have anything different, or?
Sometimes you can do everything right and still fail. That is definitely a lesson I've learned. It's not to say there weren't little things I could do better. I built a mortgage company. At one point I had close to 100 people working for me. And then the financial crisis of 2007, 2008 happened, and I went from making, a 7-figure income to being bankrupt within a year. But that, I wasn't from anything that I did wrong. It was just, market conditions. Now you can pivot quickly. I think that was a mistake I made looking back on it. If I had pivoted more quickly and not been arrogant, and thinking that I could just ride it out and outwork this problem, I think that was probably, if I learned one key lesson from that is the businesses that do the best adapt quickly. I think the ones that stubbornly stay in place and don't change are the ones that get rolled under. And you can see examples of it. I give you the example, when I think about frequently is Blockbuster Video. They were the king. And if I recall correctly, Reed Hastings, the CEO of Netflix, came to them with this idea, and they flipped in the middle finger and said, "Get out of here." And where's Blockbuster now? Where's Netflix?
Right.
there are many such examples of that. I mean, you think about, if I recall correctly, Sam Walton, who started Walmart, I think it was J.C. Penney's that he worked for, and he presented this idea of a discount warehouse store to the management there, and they fired him.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
it, companies that get arrogant and get entrenched in certain ways of doing things don't last. You have to be willing to pivot and evolve and uh, adapt, not get stubborn. And I mean, you see it all the time. Like Apple came in and kicked everybody's ass in the early 2000s because people were stubborn and not willing to adapt and listen to customers. But I mean, there are some basic things. You have to work hard. You have to have a great product. You have to have great customer service, humility. I think when people get arrogant in business, it usually comes back to get you. Sometimes people can get by with it. And then just work ethic, you just be the inability to be able to grind through things, grind through
Yeah.
hardship, overcome hardship. And then I think when you make a mistake, and this is where the arrogance comes in. A lot of times people will double down on a bad idea
Mhm.
and keep working on that bad idea. It's not to say that you give up on things quickly, but if something's not working, you need to be able to pivot and dissect and understand. You hire a bad employee.
Right.
I've made this mistake many times where I try to make it work and try to make it work and try to help this person, and where I would have just been better off for both of us just getting rid of them and moving on to somebody better,
Right.
or a bad idea, a bad process, things like that. We could dig deeper into. In bodybuilding's the same way. I see so many people that double down on bad ideas, and then they they don't make any progress because they're spending all their time working on a bad idea. And this is another lesson I learned early on when I was a music major. I took things from I remember a professor telling me that practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So if you're practicing or you're doing the wrong things and you're working hard at those wrong things, you're not going to get ahead. There are plenty of people out there that work hard,
Right.
but they work hard at the wrong things.
No, absolutely makes sense. So how did you went from mortgage company to the cybersecurity world?
Well, I was completely burned out on the mortgage business. After that, had and I had always had a computer. I'm always been a tech nerd and love technology, and I had already started going back to school part time to get a degree in computer science just because it interested me.
Right.
Um, and I think when the finance and real estate world collapsed, I just wanted to get as far away from that shit as I possibly could. And I was thinking, like, what do I know? What's another skill set that I think I'm good at? And it was, I'm definitely good at running a business, and I knew enough about technology to apply it there. And at that time period, we're still like, we were kind of still in the early years of cybersecurity and network engineering, and it was sort of the gold rush there. And I thought there was an opportunity there, and that was more economically bulletproof. People always, it's sort of like the plumbing.
Right.
People need to make, when you run a business, I look at IT as like a utility. Your network has to work, your
Yeah.
network has to be secure. And I felt like it was an area that wasn't, what do they say, the riches are in the niches, but I felt like it was an area where people, uh, it was a boring kind of, everybody wants to be a programmer, that goes into IT. But I felt like it was kind of like one of these boring areas where you could be a specialist and have a niche and do really well in.
What year was that when you started looking into the cybersecurity?
I started going back to school for it in the early 2000s. I was, taking classes part time. I always like learning. It's shit. I've thought about going back to school now just because I enjoy learning.
Hmm.
Um, it's more of a time thing now for me than anything. But yeah, and then when I complete my degree, I don't know, 2000. It was good timing. 2006, 2007, something like that. I
Yeah.
don't remember. Somewhere
Yeah.
around that time frame.
I was just thinking about it because that time I was working for HP, and I remember like we didn't have no cybersecurity group, right? It was just all programmers. We just
Yep.
building up, whatever client wanted, but there's no like that sense of, well, we need a security department to, run through your codes and stuff like that. Because we did kind of everything, but that whole thing was just missing, right? It started, I think, I don't know, maybe I could be wrong, but it started becoming a little bit more popular like after 2010 or, you know, um, the next
Well,
company
yeah,
I joined, they had like a full on cybersecurity team.
yeah. Well, people usually don't make it a priority until they get hacked, and then
Right.
all of a sudden it becomes urgent. So, so that started happening with more frequency, and then people are like, "Oh, we might need to pay attention to this."
Yeah. Yeah. So since you have been a CEO of a company and now you're a coach, between those two, like, so what are the leadership traits like actually translate across the both worlds?
Getting the best out of people.
Okay.
I think that's in like I'm not a motivator. I've never been that kind of guy, like the rah rah.
Right.
Let's cheer people on. I find most of the time, like I want to work with people that are already motivated,
Yeah.
but I want to work with people that maybe the missing piece of the puzzle is they just have never had a good game plan. And I
Yeah.
think that's an area where I'm really good at is strategy and problem solving. And I think that's where running a business, successfully running a business, and especially IT, is all problem solving. I mean, you
Yeah.
that's what you do. I mean, it's you have a problem, you try to find the most efficient way to resolve that problem, and then you come up with processes that can be replicated for solving those problems. And that was always kind of an approach I took to running a business. Like, let's identify bottlenecks, let's remove those bottlenecks, let's take all the things away first that are getting in the way of our progress, and work on the most efficient processes so we can just work and make the most rapid progress without these little things that are anything that's inefficient. I want to get rid of. And I kind of took that same lens and approach to bodybuilding. And I'm like, all right, let's question everything. Let's rip everything apart, even long held dogmas with training, nutrition, everything else that goes into it. And let's rip it apart and look at it and see areas where we can be better, be more efficient, and get more out of the hard work that we put in. Because there's just kind of like this bro mentality in bodybuilding was it's like you just work hard, man. And look, there is something to that. I mean, I do think I think that's true, but you need to work hard at the right thing. And I think that was kind of what I brought to it. And I think I've been able to help people that have been not able to get progress just working hard. They need a better plan, they need a better approach, or maybe they have a unique set of circumstances that they don't respond well to things like, and we are all biodiverse and have unique physiology that sometimes we need to make adjustments based on, that what worked for person A may not work for person B, and we need to adjust that strategy and figure out what works for them. And that's part of it. That's part of it I enjoy, and I think that's what I'm good at, is problem solving and providing people with a good direction there.
Yep. So leaving the tech world, or just the business world in general, to pursue, the bodybuilding full time, obviously it's a huge shift. So what triggered the transition, right? That's one other question. And second one, I think I was talking to you back then too, when I think you sold your company and you were part of the company as a was acting CEO, or they wanted you to still be part of it, right? And then at some point you just left.
Yeah, it was a company owned by a group of people. I worked for them, and I was kind of I guess, for lack of a better term, a hired gun to build the company up to sell.
Yeah.
And they sold the company, and I'm like, all right, well, now is my time to exit. I got to a point. I kind of had some success on social media with the bodybuilding stuff because I think I filled in a niche that was devoid of anybody, like the whole problem solving thing and talking through these problems that people experience seemed to resonate with a lot of people. And I got to a point where I was making more money from coaching and consults with people, not just bodybuilding, fat loss or whatever, hormone optimization, all these things. I had to make a serious decision. I'm like, do it. Like it was really, I was making more money doing this thing, and so the opportunity just aligned perfectly with, so I'm like, I'm just going to take a leap of faith. And this is what I've done in the past when I've opened businesses or
Yeah.
gone to work for other people or done consulting. I still do some consulting here and there. Sometimes you just kind of got to pull the ripcord and jump out of the plane and see what happens.
Yeah. So I'm assuming since you took that path, you obviously enjoy that more than building businesses or.
I mean, I enjoy building things. I was sort of burned out. I'd spent 17, 16 years working on building this specific organization. I mean, we went from, we only had a handful of people up to 50 or so employees, and they were able to sell the company, and I shared in a little bit of that success as we went. And it worked out where it was, I was in a good place financially where I could take that chance and do something I love. And, I'm headed into the last part of my life. And that's another thing I want to spend it doing something I love. I get up every day. I don't dread doing this. I enjoy helping people.
Right.
It's something, it's always been, bodybuilding has always been in the background my entire life. Like I said, all the way back to when I was 15, 16 years old. It's sort of like getting to do, it's my hobby, it's my passion, it's one of the things I love the most. I mean, you know how it is, man. It's a silly ass thing that that we all do, and people outside think we're crazy. We probably are crazy, and I'm like, well, hell, if I can do this and make some money at doing it too, that's if you can make money at doing the thing that you love. I mean, it's cliche, but you hear people say it all the time. You never work a day in your life. And
Right.
there is some truth to that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I know you. So was your first competition was 2021?
I'm trying to think. I started prepping for a show during COVID,
Yep.
and then
Same.
COVID happened, and my damn show got canceled.
Yep. Same.
I remember that distinctly. I got the email that the show had been canceled, and I was like 4 weeks out. I think it was the
Oh,
Woodbridge show. Yeah, it was the Woodbridge show, and I'm like, motherfucker. And first thing I did was order a pizza. I'm like, well, fuck it. If I'm going to be locked in my house and I'm going to die, I'm at least going to eat some food.
Yeah,
So
I
now
remember. Go ahead.
I got back in the saddle and did it again the next year, and then severely overdied.
I remember that. I actually was funny. I was actually going through your Instagram today to get to your YouTube channel, and I saw that picture. I'm like, shit, I remember this because. So I think we did our first show together. That was the Jay Cutler
In Richmond.
Richmond. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is funny because I didn't know you back then, but you were going to shop, and I remember seeing you in the posing room, and I was like, damn, this dude is jacked, right? Like huge. I think I saw you like 2 weeks prior, and then I see you on the show day, and I was just like, is it him? Like I literally had to question myself until the show was done. I think I went to found your IG, and I was like, shit, that was him. And I'm like, he looked super jacked 2 weeks ago, and on the show day, you look so much smaller. Um, and then I spoke to you after that at the gym, and that's how I think we connected. But it was just funny to see like the transition. I mean, I'm sure there was some mistakes took place, but it was a huge transition. What do you look like 2 weeks before and the day of the show?
Yeah, this goes back to the whole thing about where I talked about working hard, but working hard with the right game plan.
Yeah,
This was a situation where my mentality was I'm going to work harder than everybody else and be the most ripped guy up
yeah,
there. And I just ended up making myself worse by And I've, I prep a lot of people. Shit, I probably prepped 60 people this year. I did a head count over 60 people this year. And what I've seen is you get two types of guys at shows. You get the guys who don't work hard enough, and then you get the guys, I think more often than not, when you go to a local show, most dudes are over dieted. They've gone too far. They've dieted off all their muscle. They have this mentality that the guy that suffers the most should place the best, and that's
Right.
just not the case.
Right.
And this goes back to, once again, having a good game plan. And then a lot of times I have to save people from themselves and make sure that they're remember, the thing we have to remember with bodybuilding, it's not, they don't hand out trophies for the guy who lifts the most weight or suffers the most. It's the guy who looks the best.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
and that's ultimately what we have to use as an evaluation when we're looking at progress going into a show, is who looks the best. And this was just purely a situation where I thought I could just outwork everybody and win. And I came up there and I think I got, what did I get, fifth out of six? I don't remember. It was
Okay.
bad. I looked bad. I looked really bad. It was embarrassing.
Then after the show, you blew up, and I was like, "Holy crap!" Like, I mean, you have, I mean, I would say you have good genetics, and
Yeah, I have pretty
it's
above
just
average
crazy to
genetics,
look
I
at
would
the
say. But
difference. Did you do? You didn't do a show right after, did you?
I did one the following year. It
Okay.
wasn't right after. I did the DC Pro-Am, which I won, which was about, I don't know, 9 months later,
Yep.
10 months later,
Um,
like that.
and then you turned pro what year?
Last year,
Last year.
2024. Yeah.
How does it feel? Like I said, let me ask this question differently. So, did you actually, when you started doing your prep 2021, did you have any sorts of hope or dreams or that, no, I'm gonna become a pro? Because I see that with a lot of
Fuck
guys.
no. 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 No, I didn't even think that was possible, man. Like I would just like, I was going through a shitty divorce at the time, and I mainly wanted to do a show because, look, when I was younger, I was a recreational bodybuilder. I was a gym bro bodybuilder, and I did a bunch of contest preps where I bonked out 4 to 6 weeks out because I just wanted to go party with my friends. And I'm like, this is just a box. I need, like, this is like one of those things, like, I need to say I
Check off.
did this.
Right.
I need to check it out. It's like climbing Mount Everest, is the way, the analogy I use. Like, you don't climb Mount Everest for the view from the top. You do it from the journey. But it was just like one of these things that I didn't do when I was younger that I thought I had some potential to do, and I just wanted to check that box off and say I did it.
Right.
Um, I have a couple more things I'd like to like to do. I like to, I don't like failing at things, and so I just wanted, one, I wanted to get in shape, and there's no better way to get in shape and knowing you got to be on stage in your underwear August 1st.
Right.
And so it was a commitment to getting myself in shape. And I like a challenge. I like working hard at something. And it was really nothing more than that. And my thing, and this has always been my thing with people I coach, like I don't really worry about placing so much. That and this has always been my mentality. I played sports and stuff when I was younger.
Yeah.
Um, I just, every time I compete, I just want to be better than I was the last time. That's it.
Yep.
I want to overcome obstacles. I want to improve my game plan. I want to go out there and show some improvement over what I did the last time. And if I get to a point where my body can't do that, that probably takes the fun out of it for me.
Right.
But that's, maybe I'm there now. I don't know. But that's always been my approach. I just want to go out and be a little better than I was the last time. Each
That's
time I go out there, I want to go out there knowing that I did everything I possibly could do to be the best I could be. I had the best game plan I could possibly have. I worked as hard as I possibly could. I left nothing to chance. And if I can get on stage and do that, I'm at peace when I walk up there,
yeah.
regardless of how I place.
Right. I think that was the situation for me even this year. Right. I think every year I have done a show. I can care less about the placing, honestly. Like, as long I can compare myself last year's pictures, this year pictures, I'm like, man, I made some improvement, So from last year to this year,
Yeah.
I put on 8 pounds of muscle. I was leaner. I'm like, great, I won already, right? And sure, getting a first place, the Virginia show was, it felt great. And first time also stepping into bodybuilding class for me, getting place fourth, on a light heavy got fourth place. It just like at this point, I'm like, man, I'm gonna come better the next show, and
You, you know what's wild with me, man? I spun my wheels a lot in my 20s, and I made the best progress in my life from like 46 to 50.
right,
Uh, and I think that was because I finally stopped putting so much pressure on myself. I just enjoyed the journey, and I really put a lot of critical thought into solving all the I have a lot of issues, man. I don't think I'm a diabetic. I've had cancer. I've had at this point 10 surgeries, something like that. I'm all beat the fuck up, so I had to like really figure out ways, and I've had health issues my entire life. I had to figure out ways I could work around all those problems and maximize my results, and it really forced me to. I heard Chris Bumstead talking about this recently on a podcast where he's had a bunch of health issues and other stuff, and he really had to be more detailed with things because of it.
yeah,
But I think that's the part I really enjoy is the problem solving and trying to maximize the results that way. And honestly, this year I felt kind of lost since I haven't been able to do that. It's kind of sucked recovering from this injury, but I'll get back to it at some point. But yeah, I mean, I would say, for most people, and this is what I tell people, don't worry about the placing. It's really the journey of self-improvement that's the most important thing. Being a better version of yourself, learning about yourself, learning how to push, learning how to problem solve, all of these things I think that are important, and the thing that people need to take away from it. Did you come out of this a better person? Did you come out of this learning something? Did you come out of this? And look, dude, at the end of the day, I just fucking love bodybuilding. It to me, it's like I used to play a lot of pickup games of basketball. I played rec league and basketball. I love fucking basketball. Basketball is a passion. I was never going to be in the NBA, man. I don't have the genetics to be in the NBA, but I still love playing basketball and competing at basketball. It was something I did forever. I'd be the same thing with bodybuilding. I'm a better bodybuilder than I am a basketball player, but I would, if I were getting seventh place, I'd still be out there competing probably
right.
just because I love it.
So you have so many, because again, I think I want to first of all thank you for always, supporting me. Not just this year. Every time you are there, I was competing. You always come by, and I see that like you do that with a lot of athletes, and it's not necessarily your client, right? But I think the energy put out as a coach or just to help someone, right? I think I personally appreciate that a lot because there are people out there like, okay, it's all business. We're gonna you're gonna become my client. I'll make you the best, and then you have a sensibility to help people. I think that's very rare because everyone's all about growing their business or come train with me or come coach with me, and I think you are just trying to genuinely trying to help people, and I think I appreciate that a lot about you, and I think others as well. They I'm sure they appreciate that about you. So um, I think the goal for you probably not the same as other coaches. If you know, I think you just trying to help people and so they can be better. What are your
I mean,
thoughts?
that's the thing I learned a long time. Well, one, it's just who I am.
Yeah,
But I've also found this in business. If you care about the end result, if you care about the client, if you care about giving your all, if you care about the product being the best that it possibly can be, if you care about the service being the best that it possibly can be, and if you have empathy towards the people that you're helping, I have applied this in every single thing, whether it's IT consulting, selling somebody a house, whatever the deal is. If you're trying to look out for their best interest, if you care about them, what I found is the money will just come.
right.
right? You know, and I genuinely just love doing this. I mean, I would even if I wasn't getting paid. I mean, I used to hang out at bodybuilding shows and try to help people. I probably shouldn't admit this. I probably piss some clients off, but I have some guys that I have a few charity cases. Like I definitely have some people that I just help because I see somebody that has some potential and needs a guiding light in their life, and I'll jump in and just help them out. Maybe they don't have the money. I don't want to throw it out there. Please don't hit me up for free coaching. I'm at my limit, but but I definitely will take people on at times that I heard Chris Aceto talking about this. Like he doesn't charge a lot of his clients, which is crazy to me. I guess he's made a ton of money.
I don't
Uh,
think he can, I don't think he does it for the money anymore. To be
no,
honest,
yeah,
right?
yeah, I heard him talk about that on podcasts recently. He said like a lot of people he works with, he doesn't charge.
Yeah,
He
and
just does it to help people because he loves it.
yeah, yeah. I believe that 100%. Um, so I want to ask. I think this is pretty common for all bodybuilders. So, what's the darkest or hardest moment you have had on prep, and how did you push through? I think everyone kind of goes through it, more or less. I think for me this year it wasn't as much of that. This was a fun prep for me. Last year I had a very very tough time. Going through relationship situation and uh, while you on prep, like that kind of stuff, and it really brings out a different side of you. What are some of your acting experience?
Um, that first prep you talked about, I knew I looked like shit, and I just like at the end, and I knew it, and I was embarrassed with how I looked. But there was a part of me, it's like I've told people I'm going to do this thing. I put it out there. I'm going to see it through.
Mm,
And that was, I did not feel good. I was probably sick. I probably should have pulled out of the show for my health, to be honest with you. And I just pushed through it anyway and got up there because I made a commitment and I was just going to see that commitment through whether or not. And the way I looked at it, hey, look, if I get up there and look like shit, it'll be motivation to do better the next time.
right.
Um, and that was tough. Last year, man, was tough too. When I won my pro card, which is ironic because there was something seriously fucked up with my shoulder, and I knew it. I deliberately avoided seeing the doctor because I knew they were going to tell. I know my body. I knew I needed surgery, and I'm
Oh,
like, I just got to keep this shit glued together long enough because I'm like, this is the best I've looked,
right.
but my arm could snap at any moment, and
Oh,
so I'm like, I got to keep it together just enough
right.
to make it to the finish line. And I, man, it got really bad the last couple weeks before the show. I was in so much pain I could barely train. I was like this close to pulling out of the show. Like I told Justin, I'm like, I don't think I can see this through. And Justin's like, you're there,
Wow.
man. Just get up there and do it. Like I looked better a few weeks ago when I could still train. I
Right.
didn't look my best at the end. I looked my best like 2 or 3 weeks out, which has always been a problem with me.
Right.
Um, and yeah, there were a lot of self-doubt and and I think battling through self-doubt is like this probably the biggest thing that most of us face, and then also like if you have any life distractions going on, relationship issues, that first prep, I was going through a really nasty divorce at the time. That was always looming in the background.
Right.
It was just, when you got relationships and personal life is unsettled, that makes things even more difficult. But for me, like the prep was almost therapy from that shit. It was a way for me to go in and shut my brain down and just, it's
Mhm.
cathartic.
Yeah, I've done it, so I know.
I mean,
um, I-
it's almost sadism, to be honest with you. It's like I'm just going to torture myself and numb myself to all this other pain by physically abusing myself. But yeah, last year was brutal, man. I barely hung on to the end of that prep, and then then I faced the piper at some point and realized that yeah, I've got a torn bicep tendon and a labrum fucked up and supraspinatus, and the doctor was like, "Were you taking painkillers to get through all this?" And I'm like, "Nope, just
So how did it
a
feel?
lot of
Like,
weed and Anavar."
how did you feel? Like, so clearly you were expecting not to win. So if you like, so how did it feel after you get the pro card?
Well, I got sick at the end too, man. That was like the double banger. I don't know if I had food poisoning or an electrolyte imbalance.
Okay, I remember that.
Yeah, the day of the show, I was throwing up and I had diarrhea the whole time. And like I heard the officials backstage were like, "We see you throwing up or getting sick. We're the EMTs are yanking you out of the show." And so I was like secretly hiding in the bathroom, puking in the toilet.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I think it was food poisoning. I think I had some food. It may not. It may have been exacerbated by some electrolyte imbalance. But I told Justin, I'm like, I'm going to go out prejudging. If I'm not in center, I'm not coming back for finals.
Mm.
Um, and then I went out there for like I knew when I got backstage. When we went out in the super heavyweights, there was one guy that was pretty confident, and I took off my warm up suit. Like he was like going around. He actually ended up. I feel great for him. He ended up winning North Americans the overall, but we got backstage and I could see him all nervous. And I was like, "You all right, man?" And he's like, "You got this."
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've never been in that position before.
Right.
And then I got up on stage and they had me in center the whole time and in prejudging, and then I saw Tyler Mannion wink at me and give me the thumbs up when I walked off stage.
Oh,
And I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm coming back for finals.
right.
So
So,
I went back and took a nap and drank some Gatorade, and I felt a little better at finals. And then when we got out at finals, they called the first because of top three get a
mm,
pro card.
right.
And they called out third. I thought I was in second or third. I thought I was probably third in the overall, and they called out third place, and it wasn't me. And I'm just like, because I'd already competed in the national show, I've been through this experience before. I'm like, God damn it! And they called out second place. Um, which is a guy, it's a friend of mine. He was talking shit to me the whole time when we were on stage. How he beat me. I'm like, God damn it, man! I'm not gonna. I'm gonna. I came back for nothing. And then they called me out. They called me out in first place, and I'm like, holy fuck, man! It was really fucking surreal. It was just weird. Like that was the first time I've ever won like an overall.
Right. Right. How so I know you were sick and stuff. Did it take some time to sink it in? Like how did you like process that feelings of becoming a pro? Like when you never really actually planned on it.
Yeah, it was really. It didn't feel like it really happened, man. It was really, and then like they're interviewing you afterwards and taking pictures with you, and then everybody wants to take pictures with you. And
Right.
I remember, it took me like 2 hours just to get back out front to my car so I could go back to because I was wading through a sea of people that wanted to take pictures and talk to me. Yeah, it was very surreal. And then then you get back home and then it's just back to life as normal. And then you got a big trophy sitting on your shelf. It's nothing. To me, like I look, this once again, this is my competitive mentality. I don't feel like I'm a pro until I step on a pro stage. It's to
Right.
me, it's like getting drafted in the NFL. You're not an NFL player until you get on an NFL football field and compete.
Right.
So I feel like I've earned the right to compete as a pro, but I'm not a pro yet. That's kind of my mentality about it. And I would like to get out there at least once and see how I hang.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you will as soon as you are done recovering with your shoulder. And you are getting back to it, I'm assuming right now slowly.
Yeah, slowly. I'm just, right. I'm only 2 weeks back into training fully again. So I'll take it slow and see what happens. And then I'll make an evaluation on whether I want to do a prep um, come around April and then either do the Tampa or the Chicago Pro. It's kind of the two I'm looking at. They're late July, early August shows. So those would be line up with my timeline.
Gotcha. You gotta do bodybuilding or classic?
I am not sure yet. In my heart, I'm a bodybuilder,
Mhm.
but that classic cap is higher in the pros. It's 242, where it was 232 for me. I was
Mhm.
250 on stage. There was no way I was coming down another 18 pounds
Right.
to make class. I mean, I was 18 pounds over the classic cap. There's no fucking way I could have gotten down there. I would have looked like shit. You know that's how you know whether or not you're a classic guy or a bodybuilder. If you're 18 pounds over the cap and you're still not big enough, then that's probably a sign you're a fucking bodybuilder.
Right. Yeah.
The classic guys have bird bones. I don't like, it's weird to me that I weigh more than Chris Bumstead. I'm not saying I look like him. Please don't
Right. Right.
misconstrue that. Uh, but some of those guys, like I look at like Mike Sommerfeld and those guys, like how the fuck does he make it into the like? He looks way
Right.
bigger than. It's just, yeah, I guess it's structure and how they're put together, and it's just different. I just have a bigger frame, I guess.
Yeah. All right. I know we're getting near the time, but I wanted to ask you. So, what do you want your legacy to be? Not just in business or bodybuilding, but just as a person.
Um, and this is something I've thought about a lot. I want to leave this life knowing I gave more than I took from it. I want to help people. Try to be, I'm just like anybody else. I have my flaws and imperfections, but I want to know that I've treated people with dignity and respect, and been helpful, and set a good example for my kids. Worked hard, and understand that comes with making mistakes too. I mean, we all make mistakes. It's how you handle those mistakes and move on from them. But ultimately, my legacy would be is I don't want people to be saying that guy was an asshole. If I get more people saying, "Hey, he was a nice guy, he helped me out," then he was a jerk, then I've done something.
No. Well, no, I definitely think you are doing exactly that, right? I just brought that up, even just saying it, like how helpful you are towards other people, and I think
Yeah,
that's
I
probably
appreciate it. Appreciate it, man.
a great quality you have. Paul, man, thank you so much for jumping in. I appreciate the talk. Man, it's like I had so many other questions. I'm like, we're probably gonna have to bring you back at some other time.
Anytime, man. Grab me at any time.
We didn't even get into the bodybuilding stuff yet, but it was just really good learning about some of your background and stuff. I think I'm not my podcast is not about just bodybuilding focus, right? So these are the things I like to learn from people, because again, like I had no idea some of your background about this, and then now it makes sense when I hear about it more, and why you are how you are, and why you want to put pro cards. Like you are just that person that don't like to lose, right? And
Oh,
not
I'm
trying to
super competitive, man. I don't want to discount the competitiveness in there. I remember when I was on stage, there was the guy that was next to me was talking shit the whole time, and it kept calling me social media superstar. And then
oh shit.
when I won, um, then I was like, yeah, motherfucker. Like, we're friends, so it's all good. But we talked about it. We're both highly competitive, man. It's like I played
Yeah.
sports when I was younger. You get on the court and you're
Oh
talking
shit.
shit,
Yeah.
and you're giving your friends shit, and then when you get off, you're bros again.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. Well, thank you again, Paul. I appreciate your time. Until next
Yeah,
time.
man.
Thank
I
you.
did.